Welcome to your unfiltered guide to navigating the workplace as a Black woman, the Black Womaning in Corporate America podcast with your host, Nicole S. Palmer. I am the editor-in-chief and founding partner of Delnick Media, an independent publishing company that amplifies underrepresented and marginalized voices. This podcast was inspired by my best-selling book, Playing the Game While Black Womaning in Corporate America. Let's get into it. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Black Womaning in Corporate America with your host, Nicole S. Palmer. And I am not alone today. Super excited to introduce today's guest, Tish Baldez, who is joining us today. And, I don't like to steal anyone's thunder, so I'm actually going to turn it right on over to her to introduce herself to our audience. Welcome, Tish.
Hello, Nicole's audience. I am so excited. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today because Black Womaning in Corporate America represents kind of who I am, right? And who I have been in my career.
Yes.
Like you are in your career. So I am Tish Baldez. I am the owner, partner, and founder of a company called P31 Consulting. For the last 20 plus years, we focused on providing consulting, training consulting, skill development consulting, and facilitation and coaching. All of those things are kind of wrapped around the same package of helping people do their jobs better, helping people build their businesses, and helping people accelerate their climb and growth within corporate America. Even though my partners and I have stepped outside of corporate America, but most of our clients are corporations. We have part of our business, we service corporations, and we have for 20 years. We have another group that are entrepreneurs, small business owners, independent professionals who are building their businesses. And there we serve as business coaches and actually teach and train them how to sell their services, just like we teach corporations to sell their services to one another.
Very cool. And because I totally relate with that because I feel like right now I'm like building the car as I'm trying to drive it.
Entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship at its definition
Yes.
and finest. That's the way you do it. You build the car as you're going down the road, right?
Exactly. So I know that I can totally relate with the folks that you serve because I am definitely all of those things right now. But I'm looking to join you very soon and make my escape. So, hey, I'm putting it out into the universe.
Yes.
So that is fantastic. And so one of the things that I love to do with all of our guests is to ask them their origin story because, you've been in this space for quite a while.
Yeah.
So tell the folks what your origin story is. How did it come to be? How did you end up leading the work that you're doing now?
That's really interesting. I, like many people who cannot relate to this, left and took a package. Like some people have been, made redundant, downsized, all those terms.
Yep.
I was working for a large pharmaceutical company at the time. They went through a merger and the requirement was if you were made an offer to stay on, you had to take the offer.
Okay.
You weren't going to get a package if you made work, but they made me an offer. And I went back to them and said, you know what? I don't think I want to do this.
That's right.
And at the time, I had a 1-year-old and 2 other children at home. And I thought it would be a nice time to come home and spend time with my kids. So I went back to the company and I found a loophole. And it really existed.
Love me some loopholes.
Yes, if my travel was going to increase more than X% from my current role, I could get a package. So I went back and I got a package. On my way out, a friend of mine who was also a person that I and my manager would often hire in to do work, she said, I heard you're out. I heard you're out on your own. Why don't you come work with me? And she had a training company. And she said, you love helping people and learning and training. Why don't you come help me? That was the beginning of my origin story. She invited me in to work with her. And then at one point she said to me, after about a year or two, she said, I think you should go out on your own. And I said, wait, are you firing me? Are you firing me? Like, what happened to our relationship here? Why are you telling me to leave you? And she said, you have so much more than just this training component. You can see strategy, you can see strategically for corporations, you can help them make bigger decisions. And she said, I just think you have more to offer. And I think if you continue doing this, you're going to eventually not want to do it anymore. So I was introduced to someone at a large corporation, connected with one of the VPs really well, just connected on business, personal, every level. And she ended up hiring me. And that was my first opportunity to work as a consultant and independent professional on my own. But because she saw my potential and what I had done from my past, she's the one that kind of introduced me around. She started
Nice.
introducing me to different people. So I didn't have to sell myself. She was doing all the referring and introducing me to people. And through those experiences, my clients started shaping me. They started saying, I noticed that you do this really well. You should do more of that. And I would say, but I don't do that. And they would say, you do it really well. You should do more of it. Then another client would say, you know what? You do this really well. You should do more of that. I'm going to introduce you to someone because they need more of that. And I would say, but that's not what I do. So I learned very early on to allow my clients and my customers to show me the skills and talents that I had that were most valuable to them, and to follow that as long as I enjoyed it. I didn't want to do something I didn't enjoy,
Right.
but to follow it as long as I enjoyed it. And I did that. And then eventually my sister, who's my business partner, said, I want to leave corporate. I want to come do what you're doing. She
Right.
did. She was
Good.
like, I'm coming out. She called me one day and she said, I quit. And I'm going to come
Nice.
help you. And we ended up building the business from there. And so I was on my own for quite a few years before she joined. And then once she joined, we put structure around it. We started thinking about who we were. And we continued to let our clients and customers show us who we were that we didn't know. Just by responding to them, they would say, that's so valuable. You should do more of that. And then we did it together. And since then, we brought on more people to work with us. Yeah.
There are a couple of things that you said that I really want to emphasize for our audience. The first thing that I want people to make sure they caught this tea. You talked about a loophole. And I think that's so important because I liken that to this notion that sometimes doors are closed, right? But we have to look for that window.
That's
And
right.
so I really love that you didn't just say, well, this is all that's available. So I guess I just have to go with it. You need to actually allow for you to see the window of availability that you can actually crawl out of if you need to.
You know what? I love that. Can I add to that?
Yes, please.
I love that because one of the things that I've noticed about myself over the years as I've been a professional and growing, and then I reflect back onto myself as a child, I didn't realize I wasn't that child that never took no for an answer. I didn't realize that until I became an adult because
Wow.
I was very obedient, followed the rules, you don't break the rules. I was that kind of
Right.
child. But I started to reflect back, especially in that situation. I
Right.
learned to ask, what else do I need to know that might help me get what I want?
Right.
And it's not that I wanted to break a rule because I'm very much not a rule breaker, but I really am not. I'm still to this day, I'm not a rule breaker. But I know that there's always a way for me to get what I want. And so I didn't realize, I remember when I was like 14 years old and I wanted to buy jeans because that's what was popular back then. Everybody was wearing jeans and my parents didn't have money to buy $30 jeans. And I remember I went to my father and I said, I really want jeans. These designer jeans are really I really want them. And he said, no, I was 14. He said, if you have a job, you can go buy your own jeans. And I said, okay. And I went to my mother and said, Daddy says if I want jeans, I have to get a job. And she said, well, you're 14. You can get working papers.
Okay.
And why don't you get working papers and go find a job? That's not what my father wanted to happen. He thought by saying no, right? But I realized from that time in my life, I've always been that person. I've always been that person that didn't accept the no. And no, there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way. But I didn't realize that about myself
Right.
Until I was much older and started reflecting back on these stories. And I
Mm.
add to you, you talked about climb through the window. I think it's a beautiful analogy because if we don't believe there are windows, we won't look for the windows.
Oh, we won't.
And we have to first believe there's always windows and other doors that
Absolutely.
aren't in our view, but it doesn't mean they're not
Yes.
there. It just means
Mm.
I don't know where they
Yes.
are. So
Right.
my job has to be to find those windows and doors because I want to go through them in an honest way. But you're right. I think a lot of us just kind of go, oh, you know what we do? We go, oh, look what they did. And then we complain about them.
Ooh, that's a word. Some of y'all don't let go of the thing because if you do, you won't have nothing to complain about.
Right.
I'm just saying.
I know. I almost hear like a pin drop. It got quiet in the room right
Hey,
there.
come
It
on,
got quiet.
because if the thing is resolved, if it's no
Yes.
longer, then what is your excuse? What's standing in your way from doing the thing that you said that you wanted to do, but you couldn't because of the thing that was, mm,
Nicole,
oh,
you
we're
know
gonna leave
what?
that right
Think about how much energy we expend on complaining about what
there.
we didn't like. I said to somebody recently, that last 10 minutes you just spent talking about all the things you
Mm.
disagreed with and how it was so bad. We could have had a conversation for the last 10 minutes
Ooh,
of us trying to find you getting what you want,
say that.
right? And I think that's what we do. You're right. I love how you say we don't have anything to complain about. Part of that's a mindset shift.
Oh,
Anything
100%.
is available to me. Anything is a possibility for me. And
Absolutely.
man doesn't control what I'm able to do. So,
Exactly.
and not this man or that man or that man. Maybe there's another man or another woman or another person
Okay.
who's my way and is going to create that path for me. But as
Yes.
long as I expend my energy in complaining and whining and talking about the problems,
Mm.
I have wasted that time. I can't get that time back.
You
Think
can't.
about it. You can't get that time
You
back.
really cannot. You really cannot. Absolutely not.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Like we love to complain and talk a thing to death. Like we do it all the time.
Yeah.
And we really need to start looking at how can I find what's the solution rather than like, okay, you already know what the problem is. We've already identified the problem. We've talked about it ad
Yes.
nauseum.
Yes.
Now let's turn and focus that energy on what is the solution to the problem.
That's right.
And then we could then see the windows. If we're actually looking for the solution, if we're so focused on the problem, we're never going to see the window. We're never going to see the way out. So I love that you share that because I think that's so important to take away from whatever situation you may find yourself in right now. You may be looking at your job and saying, oh my goodness, this job is whatever it is, insert whatever adjective you want in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're so focused on that, but maybe look at it a different way. Could this be an opportunity? What could this lead you to? What doors could this open for you? How can you take this and parlay it into something different? I did that the entirety of my corporate career
Yeah.
up until now when I decided I'm just here to collect a paycheck. Okay. But when I was trying to climb back in the day, you have to find the opportunities. You have to get creative. You have to get clever. A lot of the raises that I got were not because someone came to me and said, "Oh, Nicole, you've been doing a great job as a Black woman.
Right. Right.
Like you've been doing such a great job. Let's give you a raise." No, I found opportunities and said, "You know what? I see this vacancy over here that's just right over around the corner from my department, and how can I flip this into a position for myself?" You have to learn to see the loopholes, as you said. And when you're taking on a new job, even though you've been at the company for years, that comes with a raise. That comes with more money. And so you have to be strategic when you're looking at your current landscape and not just say, well, this is the job I got, so I'm just going to have to accept it. And all I can do is complain about it. No, you got options.
We know and I love you said several times the word opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. What
Yes.
I think sometimes is we see obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, an obstacle is something we go over.
Okay.
That's what it is. An
Mm-hmm.
obstacle is something you go over. A hurdle is something that a person jumps over.
Yes.
It's not something that's fixed. It's not a brick wall that goes to the eternity of the universe. It is
Yes.
surmountable. It is climbable. It is overcomable.
Absolutely.
And I think that we don't see those opportunities. But part of it, I think I know part of it is, I know at least in my case, I was raised, my father was very much a problem solver. So as a problem solver, he's an engineer. As a problem solver, he's looking for the problem so he can figure out a way to fix it. My mother was more opportunistic. She always saw the flowers, but she knew how to fix things.
Okay.
But she saw opportunity, but she knew how to fix things. So I came from this environment where everybody's fixing things. And I think it was very easy for me. It could have been very easy for me to see the problem, to see the things coming against me. Came up in a home where my father got a job. He was put in a room
Mm.
and no one would talk to him because he was the only Black person there. They felt they had to hire him, but they put him in a room and they didn't even give him work. He just sat there in a room and he told me, I said, "What did you do?" He said, "I read every book on the shelf. And by the time I finished sitting there for that year or two, I knew more about their business than they did." He basically read all the book, the manuals, right? I think it's sort of like instead of looking at a situation as an obstacle that's not overcomable, we should look at it and go, "Oh, look at that. I wonder how we get around that. I wonder how we go over it. I wonder how we get under it." Instead of getting fixated on the obstacle and start to think about, this is going to be kind of interesting to figure out how we get around it. And every time we do it, what do? We win or we learn. We win or we learn. So either I'm going to win, I'm going to jump over right away and quickly, or I'm going to learn how, oh, that didn't work. Let me see if there's another way around. That window didn't open, right? The Nicole window, that window didn't open. At least it didn't open that way. Let me see. And to me, it's a mindset shift.
Yes.
And we have to be careful who we surround ourselves with.
You preaching good today, girl. And y'all know already, these are not scripted.
No.
These are free flowing. And so I believe that in divine ordinance and things come together as they should. But yeah, girl, say that one more again.
It depends. We have to pay attention to who we surround ourselves with. Who are we spending our time talking to? What are they saying to us? What are they speaking into us? Are they wallowing with us in our self-pity about this bad situation? Now, I want to qualify that. I do believe in letting us get things out. Like sometimes we just have to express it,
Absolutely.
But how much time we spend expressing it should not be a large proportion of the amount of time we spend figuring out how to deal with it and overcome it, right? And that's why we have to be careful about who is speaking into our lives and who we're having conversations with. Like if something goes wrong, I'll call any one of my partners to tell them what went wrong. But you know what I know is going to happen? They're going to let me get it out. They're going to say, "Well, tell me what happened." Then they're going to go dive right into, "Have you started to figure out a way we can deal with this?" They're going to let me get it out, and they're going to let me get my frustration out, especially if a person frustrated me, but they won't let me stay there because they know that's not a healthy place for me to stay from a business perspective. We're not benefiting by having a long, drawn out conversation.
Not at all.
Why it's important, we've got the right person in our circle.
Yes.
Right? If you're in my circle, it means I can hear your voice, right? If you're circling around, I can hear your voice. I only want those voices that are taking me to the next level of greatness or opportunity or freedom or peace.
Yes.
Right? I need people in my life that do that. And so your listeners, if you know you have people in your life that you love, but they bring you down, they drain your energy. It's okay to have them in your life. You love them, but that doesn't mean that's the person you go to. The person is going to help you remind you and wallow with you in all the pain of it is not helping you to heal, go beyond that, or grow.
And you may not have found those people yet.
That's right.
So that's something else to think about because in my full grown age, it took me a while to accept and be proud of my age and say it out loud. In my full grown 45-year-old age, I am finding deeper and more meaningful connections now than I ever had in my 30s, in my 20s, in my teens. So, don't feel discouraged if you're like, well, everybody in the same boat as me. Like who do I have? Your person could still be out there, but you have to be willing to at least recognize that maybe the folks in your immediate orbit are not the folks that they may not, they may only be around for a season.
Yeah.
And we have to acknowledge and recognize that. And that is very much, and the other thing that I found, and I love listening to Joyce Meyer, something else that she always says is new level, new devil. And I really believe in that. Is the more you grow, you're going to find some different type of things happening
Oh, yeah.
and some different types of obstacles. The obstacles are going to look different. They're
Mhm.
not going to always stay the same. It's just like when you're playing a video game, whatever have you, each level gets different.
Yeah.
They bring you little characters, opposition, all those things. I grew up playing Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Like they all look just like, okay, wait a minute, now they flying? What's going on?
Well,
Okay.
that's a great analogy.
So
Yes.
it's just, I think that's such a powerful thing. And I think I'm so grateful that we're having this conversation, and I do believe in God's timing as well, because this was the conversation I needed for today, because there are so many things I need to be reminded of right now, because I'm in that space in what I call the in between, where you can see the thing, like it's not fully shaped, but you know that there's a thing coming, and you can kind of see it in the horizon, and that difficulty that sometimes we have to stay busy in the in between while we're waiting. Because God knows by far, I think I'm the most impatient person on this earth. I just 100% believe that. Maybe there's somebody else worse than me, but my goodness. And so just to recognize that where we are sometimes is where we need to be, but it doesn't mean that the people that are in your current circle you're going to take with you to the next stage. Sometimes you got to leave them behind, and it's okay. It's okay. It's not a failure on you. It doesn't mean that there's wrong with them. It just means that you're no longer compatible because you're no longer in the same place.
Yes. You know what? And you remind me of another analogy. I love your video game analogy though, because that's exactly what happens. I think I come from a family with a lot of athletes. Like I have
Mm.
a niece that's an Olympic gold medalist.
Oh
I have
wow.
a nephew who's playing basketball in Europe.
Mm.
I mean, we just have a lot of athletes in our family.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think about is when I think about track and field, because I like to
Hmm.
watch it, watching the hurdlers, right?
Yes.
They don't focus on the hurdles.
Mm-mm.
They focus on where they're going.
Yes.
The hurdles to them are just a part of the process. It's
Hmm.
something they just have to go over. It's not a problem. It's not something they're going to complain about. Like, I
Mm.
can't believe I had to jump over that second hurdle. It's just a part of the
Mm.
process. And I think
Yes.
when I think about that, they're always focused on where they're going.
Yes.
Like you talked about that in between state, you see something coming. When we stay focused on that thing that's coming, and not give our attention to the hurdles just become something we just have to go over.
Hmm.
It's not
Yeah.
a problem, it's not a challenge, it's not something that we can't overcome. It's something
Right.
that we will overcome. And when
Absolutely.
I was thinking about the hurdle example too, you were saying that when we move along in life, like some people just don't go with us. The person who was doing hurdles in high school had one coach.
Mm.
Went to college, they had a different coach. And then when
Absolutely.
they go pro, they have a different coach,
Yes.
right? And if they decide they wanna go to the Olympics, they might have a different coach. And it's not that all the coaches from the past didn't serve a purpose and it wasn't mutual, it was mutually
Absolutely.
beneficial relationship. But it's like you said, as we move on,
Hmm.
we require a different perspectives, different
Yes.
life experiences, different guidance, different mentoring, different coaching, um, different knowledge and skills, and we need to find the people that can help us get those things, and those aren't the same people from the past,
They are
right?
not.
Yeah, they're not,
Absolutely.
and it's okay, like you said, maybe
Yes.
for a season. I think even there are some people in my life that I love. They've been in my life my whole life, right? I don't remember a time they weren't in my life. but it doesn't mean that I will spend as much time with them in my head.
Right.
I don't want them in my head because I've been evolving and changing and growing, and many of them haven't. And I want to encourage them and I want them to grow.
Absolutely.
But for me to grow, I need somebody who's a little further ahead of me.
There you go. Yeah, that's the word, folks. I hope you heard that. And if you didn't, go ahead and rewind that. Okay, this you can rewind. This is not live
Yeah.
television. Okay, so yeah, that's a word right there, and I think again, so critical and so important that we keep that in mind. And people call it different things. I grew up hearing it called the still small voice. Some people call it their,
Yes.
intuition,
Right.
their gut, their sixth sense,
Yeah.
whatever you call it, your third eye, whatever it is you call it. You listen to that, your instinct. It is so important. It's not going to lead you wrong. There are some times that we let people overstay their welcome.
Oh,
Like,
that was
just,
say that.
okay,
Yes.
okay. Like,
Yes.
you done seen the flags. It done went from green to yellow to all the way red, a blaring horn, all of the things, and you ignore all of them. And we need to start being better and not allowing people to overstay their welcome, because a lot of times when we do that, that holds us back. And that keeps us from, we might miss our assignment. We might actually get set back because we're so busy trying to bring those same people along with us that were never meant to go with us the rest of the way. So, and I'm saying that as someone who is very much in that season now where I'm having to be okay with leaving people behind. I'm having to be okay with doing it faster than I used to.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That
Yeah.
can feel a little disorienting if you're thinking, but how after a week or after a month, I'm already saying, no, it's time to cut ties. The more that you listen to that voice, the faster you're
Mhm.
going to start picking up on that,
Mhm.
and you're going to get to the people and the opportunities and the places that you need to be in faster. And if you're impatient like me, you're going to love
Yeah, you wanna do it that yeah,
it. Okay.
yes, I think that is so critical because it doesn't mean you're when you say, like, you're leaving them behind on your path, not on theirs. They have their own path, and they're gonna follow their own path, but you're saying as we go forward, they're not coming along with us, and that's okay. I think it's okay. To me, it looks like it's okay for my relationships to change.
Yes.
I'm okay with people not being as close to me anymore, right? There are some people I really miss in my life, but I think that they have stepped away because of what
Right.
they're doing and where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm okay with that because it doesn't mean the love and the closeness and the relationship that we had before wasn't real. It wasn't authentic. It wasn't mutually just great for that
Mm-hmm.
time in our lives. But it doesn't mean that works now. And so I'm okay if they do that. I'm okay if
Absolutely.
I'm not as close with them anymore because I will always love them. Right.
Yes.
Or if it's with business, I will always appreciate it. Think about how many people in business. I think about early in my career, I
Mm-hmm.
had people I hung out with after work. I
Yep.
did things. They were like, we were like, could not be separated during the day or after. I haven't talked to them in 20 years. But at that point, we loved each other. We had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
We grew professionally together. We
Yep.
helped each other out. We helped each other become smarter, faster, more adept to navigate corporate. We're not close anymore. But at that time, we were helping each other out, and it was a good thing. But
Yes.
it doesn't mean, like you said, they're not there for life. They were there for a season.
Right. And for the folks who are still hanging on with us, because you're like, okay, Nicole, Tish, what this got to do with Black women in corporate America? Check this out, y'all. See everything we just said, everything we just talked about, that very much applies to your jobs too.
Yes.
Yeah, some of y'all overstaying y'all welcomes at y'all jobs. Hmm. Some of y'all are in jobs that are not checking for you, that are dragging you down, that are holding you back. It is the same exact concept, two sides, same coin, because we have relationships with our jobs as well. We spend the most time in any given week at our jobs, for those of us who are working 40 hours a week, you're spending more time at your job than you're spending with your family, with your loved ones, with anything else that you are doing. And some of y'all have been holding on to a job for dear life that you know is making you sick, is holding you back, is making you come home more times than not crying, frustrated, fed up, disgusted. I need all of us to really start looking, and some of y'all just in denial. And I'm speaking as someone who was 100% in denial. Okay, I stayed at a job 8 years too long.
Wow, that's a long
Like, let's just
time.
be
That's a
clear.
long time. Yeah.
And it took me. I got pushed out, and not by them. My body physically said, "We done." And if you don't want to be done yourself, we gonna be done for you.
That's interesting.
and
Yeah.
and I physically could not. And even going through the medical leave that I went through, still in denial the first half of my medical leave, I was going back. I was 100% going back. And it took right up until about the midpoint towards the end of my medical leave to realize, um no, I can't go back because the job is literally killing me. And I think as Black women, we've always been taught to endure, right?
Oh,
You
yes.
know, to hang in
Oh,
there,
yeah.
because it's not only what we've been taught, but it's what society tells us we are supposed to do, because we're strong. You know, we withstand, we can go through anything, we can bounce back better than before, or be resilient. And we need to stop buying into the lie that that's what we're supposed to do. We are supposed to be someplace that either is a means to an end in a healthy fashion. Let me be very clear. For me, I'm 100% in a place that is a means to an end, but it is not a place that has me up at night. It is not a place that I stay 12-hour days. It is a place that 501, where Nicole at? Oh, it's 501. She not here. She not here because her shift done. And so you either need to find that job that's going to do that for you, or find something that fulfills you, because too many of us are dying because our job is literally killing us. And so that you look at all the parallels that we've walked through, that it comes to relationships, that people 100% applies to your job as well. And we need to start thinking about that. Start looking for those exits. Start looking for them windows. You
You know
got some
what?
windows.
That goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's about mindset.
Yes.
It's about mindset. The reason that we allow our jobs to kill us is because we are not looking for the opportunities to do other things that would be more interesting to us. We're not looking for opportunities to get out. And our focus is on the wrong thing. We
Yes.
often wait until it's so bad that we're like,
Yes.
now I'm trying to get out. I have to tell you, Nicole, I'm never at a point in my life I'm trying to get out. I haven't been for many years. I'm always going towards something I desire. There's a big difference in the
Very
mindset of
much.
I'm trying to get out and I'm trying to go toward. I'm never
Yes.
trying to get out. I'm always looking toward what I want, and I'm trying to figure out, how do I get there? I happen to be here right now, but that mindset shift is so important
It is.
because it keeps us healthy. If I'm going to stay feeling like I'm buried in something that I resent, I'm not focusing on the things that will give me excitement and encouragement and hope and optimism.
Right.
And I think that's why I say it goes back to our original conversation. It's about a mindset shift.
Yes.
When you're in a job and you're going, that inner voice is going, this doesn't feel right. Okay. Say, okay, voice. So this doesn't feel right. Okay. So what else should we be thinking about? Don't because here's the way we tend to respond to that. I know I can't stand this job. I don't know why I stayed here for so many years. Isn't that what we do?
Yes, we do.
That's
We
the
all have
way
the
we
same script.
talk to ourselves. What we should go is, it's not a good place. Yeah. What would be a better place? What might I like to do? It might be within that same organization. It might be right there. We tend to hate companies when it's not the company that's the problem. It might be the people that you're working with. It might be it's not a good fit between you and that person. Because maybe the reason the other 6 people get along with them and you don't It's because you two just aren't a good fit. It doesn't make them a bad person and you a good person or them a good person. It doesn't mean any of that. But we spend so much time feeling the resentment and wallowing in it.
Yep.
We don't go, oh, what else can I do? I'm always asking myself, what else can I do? I'm talking to Nicole.
Hey, okay.
And I think that it's audience, it's mindset shift.
Yes.
It's a choice of what kind of ways are you going to choose to think?
Yes.
What kind of questions are you going to ask yourself when you're in a corporate situation or outside looking in? You're asking yourself, what else can I do that I might enjoy? And then sometimes the answer is, I don't know. And then the next question is, well, how can I find out? And then the next question is, well, who can I talk to?
Okay.
And then the next question is, well, let me talk to them. Well, that conversation didn't go anywhere, but I made the connection. I'm glad I did that. Now I'm going to talk to this person. Everything is a win or a learn. We either win because we feel like we're going forward or we're learning from it, and then we're going to take it with us to the next thing. It's a mindset shift. And when we start to look at our lives, our professional lives differently, we have a whole lot more peace. We find ourselves less sick.
Yes.
Less diabetes, less high blood pressure, less stress, less, bipolar disorder. You know what I'm saying? All of those things that we're dealing with, depression and anxiety, when we change the way we look at things, and I can say it, I've been hospitalized for that. So audience, I have a right to talk about this. I've been medicated and hospitalized,
you and me
but
both.
not anymore. It's been over 20 years. I'll tell you, when I got a mindset shift, right? And it changed the way I thought, changed about everything that was going on in my life so that I don't have that anymore. I don't, and it's, we have to deal with things in life, I had an episode happen recently, physically. It doesn't mean things won't happen, but how do we deal with those things? How do we think about those things? It's how we think, how do we react to those things?
Yeah. That is such a powerful thing to really drive home, because I think a lot of times we hold ourselves back because of what we're believing.
Yes. And
I
that's
mean
the word, believing.
Yeah, and that's really what it boils down to, because when I look back, up until those last 2 years, and my mom was very good at instilling this in me, and I don't think it was a compliment, but this is how I took it. And so she said, Nicole, you don't understand the meaning of the word no. And that was from a very young age, and that has seen me through, and it could be a double-edged sword, but more times than not, it has been such a powerful tool for me, because if someone says, well, no, or well, this, I'm like, well, I'm going to show you that it isn't no. The answer is that yes, I can. And yes, I will. And so when I was climbing the corporate ladder, I looked for those opportunities. I didn't allow them to say, okay, now we're going to actually promote you. No, I went to them and said, hey, I'm ready to be promoted, and here's why. And if they were having a hard, then I would find another way to get the very same result. You find the opportunity, because I believed in myself that much. And what's very important to drive home, though, and this is the danger of overstaying your welcome, those last 2 years chipped away at my belief. Those last 2 years, I didn't really believe in myself. I stayed so long that it really started chipping away at my mindset. And I started believing the lie that I wasn't good enough. I started believing the lie that this is as good as it was going to get for me, that this is all I deserved. And that is why it's so important to not just listen to that still small voice, but to actually take an action, to act upon it, because I know I overstayed my welcome. And how different could things have been if I had just said, you know what, it is time to go? Because I spent a lot of time recovering and healing from something that didn't need to happen.
You know what? And I think for your listeners, they might be thinking, Tish and Nicole, they're different. They think different than I do. You know what? They're like, oh, they just think different. I don't think like that. No, you said something that was so important. It's about believing. You and I choose what we believe. We're choosing to believe things. And I would challenge your listeners to think 10 years ago, think about something that you used to believe that you know now is no longer the truth for you. It's not true, but you believed it. But you
Right.
learned through experience or whatever happened, you learned it wasn't true, right? I think if you think back to when you're like 10 years old, there are things you believed when you were 10, like Santa Claus was real, and you found out like, no,
Yeah.
it's not.
And the
But
tooth
the
fairy.
belief becomes so wired in us, it becomes kind of the part of the way we function. I want to encourage your believers, take a piece of paper and write down a few things you used to believe
Mm.
that you know you don't believe that way anymore. And
Okay.
here's the purpose of the exercise. Stick it up on a mirror, stick it up on a refrigerator. It'll remind you that whatever you're believing right now that's not serving you well is temporary belief.
Yep.
And you have a choice. Do you want to believe what's holding you back? Or do you want to believe something different
Okay.
that's going to propel you forward? Belief is a choice.
Yes. Yes. Like 1,000% yes. And also, let's be clear, because I know that some of y'all might be like, well, yeah, you're out there doing your thing. You got a podcast, you got a best-selling book. Shout out to the 5-star reviews on Amazon and Barnes Noble. But more importantly, let me be clear, on any given day, my level of confidence will be all over the
Yes,
place.
yes.
So none of us have it figured
Mm-mm.
out. This is a daily practice. I just posted about that earlier today. I was feeling super low this morning, but I knew I had to show up, and I still, you push through. And then I got, and suddenly I just saw this TikTok about this, like how God works suddenly.
Yeah.
And I got this message from someone that like just it just lifted my spirit. I mean, I cried through as I was reading the message, but it was what I needed. And so I just want to challenge the notion that, like, oh, well, you've arrived. None of us have arrived.
No,
Like just be clear
we're
about
always
that.
on the move.
All of us are still very much trying to figure it out. Yes. And so I just want to encourage everyone that is thinking that, oh, well, there's no way because I can't do this. I like That's just a self-limiting belief. All of us are always trying to figure it out. Most of us on any given day are not sure of ourselves, but we push through anyway. So
And
just keep that in mind as
we
you
do it
are.
one belief at a time. One belief at a time. Well, I was going to say to encourage all of us, to encourage you and me. Sometimes I say things to encourage myself, as I'm sure you do.
Yes.
I was doing some training for a corporation because
Yeah.
we teach them how to sell to each other, right? And so they were talking about a big deal, like a
Hmm.
large volume deal, like a
Right.
seven figure deal. And I was saying how, we win just about everything we've been on. Like we've come up with a framework that enables us to win because we're
Right.
focused on ourselves. We're focused on the client. I was telling them all this. And then it was like a multi-day program. And then we came back a day and I was like, oh man, I just got this email and the client said no, like they weren't
Mm.
forward right now. And everybody was like, oh man, and I was like, what are you guys upset about? I don't understand. I said, let's have a conversation about this because I don't
Right.
understand what you're upset about. I said, they said, no, not now. I'm interpreting it as a not now. And this is just the beginning of the conversations.
Right.
I said, because now I have an opportunity to go back and find out what they were actually saying no to.
Okay.
They weren't saying no to all of us, all of me, and all of our proposal. There was something that made them go, not now. I said,
Mm.
this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship
Okay.
because now we have an opportunity to understand one another. I can understand what they meant by certain words and language. It's sort of like it's the way we look at life. That's what you and I are talking about. It's a mindset.
Hmm.
I could look at that have been meant like, oh man, we didn't win. No, 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 no. And there's a word I would, if your audience isn't already using it, is to put the word yet at
Yes.
the end of something you're not sure of. Like, so the client hasn't selected us yet.
Hmm.
Other people might say, no, they said no, no, they haven't selected us yet. It's my job to figure out what else they need to select us.
There you go.
But they're going to select us. I just need to
Okay.
figure out what I need to do to help them in the process. So if you put the word yet, like, I don't know how to do that yet. Like it's such a powerful word
It
what it does to our
really is
minds,
when you
right?
think about that. Yeah, you don't have a job opportunity yet.
Exactly. I haven't figured out I don't think there's a way to get out of this situation yet. I
Mm,
mean, I haven't figured out which window will open for me yet. I haven't even figured out if there are any windows in there yet.
okay.
But yet implies my brain and my body follow along with that yet word because it implies that we've got something to do. It
Yes.
also suggests I have some control or influence, or there are actions I can take to help me get beyond the yet. And that is a big thing I would recommend your audience start adding that word to the end
Oh, yes.
sentences that sound absolute and absolute, even if it's upside. I haven't made $10 million yet.
Mm,
It doesn't mean I'm not going to. I'm going to make $10 million.
okay.
I haven't made $10 million yet. Or I could say something where people would say, I don't know how to make $10 million yet. Some people might say, well, I don't know how to make $10 million yet. The only reason you
I
don't know how to do it yet is because you haven't done the things that will help you learn how to do it. But if you do those things, you will learn how to
That is a
make $10
word.
million dollars.
That y'all better catch that because I'm catching that for myself. I'm not on the New York Times bestseller list yet.
Yet, yet,
Yet.
yet.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yet will put some wind in your sails. Take all of those things that you're saying are negative. I haven't gotten my degree yet.
Yet.
Okay, put that yet in there. Okay, because I'm about to sit here and go have me a little praise dance in the corner. Okay.
I don't have money to pay that bill yet.
Yet that is so powerful because and it reminds me of the word but, right? Because
Yes.
that's the other one, right? Because that's another powerful three
Ooh,
letter
stay
word.
away
Okay.
from that one.
Okay. That's another, and I think we always think about it from the perspective maybe of a negative connotation.
Yes,
But what about the positive? What about they counted me out, but
that's
you know
right.
what that but does?
That's
It
right.
negates everything that came before it.
That's right. It sure does. It negates
Okay.
everything that came.
So you better add that to your repertoire, but and yet.
Yes, but yeah, but use that but the way, Nicole, the way you just described
Yes.
it. You're negating something negative
Yes.
that you want to turn into a positive.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I
Absolutely.
mean, you just really have to be careful because our brains really respond to what they're hearing, right? And what's
Absolutely.
coming. And we have a whole lot more control over that than we want to recognize. I'll
Yes,
give
we
you
do.
another word. So we talked about yet, we talked about when to use but, and I would
Mm-hmm.
say also say only. Say things like, I want to make $10 million a year. That's not much. I only want to make $10 million. That's all.
Hey.
Right? It does. It's a similar with the but, right? But it's making. I was talking to my son recently, and he said something, and I said, "You mean?" And he said, "Only." He said,
Mm,
I only need." He was trying to figure out how to do a calculation to get a certain number of
right.
customers. He said, "I only need 250 customers to get that." I said, "Exactly."
Okay.
Now, some people might say, "Well, it's impossible to get 250 customers." No, I would say it's impossible to get 250 customers right now. Actually, I don't think it's impossible anyway. I wouldn't even use that word, right? But I think it's like that yet, that but, and that only get
Yes.
us in the right mindset. Like, when you're trying to get a promotion within a
Yes.
corporation, you might say, well, I'm not qualified for that role yet.
Mm, okay.
So what do you need to do to get qualified for it? I don't have the
Okay.
relationships within the organization that will get me positioned to be seen for that role yet. So what people do you need relationships with to help you with that? I think as long as we put a period instead of putting a yet, we need to put the period after the yet. And
Yes.
I wouldn't even put a period. I put a dot, dot, dot,
Mm,
right?
okay. To be continued.
Because it is, right? It's going to be continued. It's
Yes.
going to be continued. And
Mm,
for people out there who are thinking, you just don't think this way, you don't use that kind of language, you're not you don't think, you're the person that the glass is half empty. That's a belief.
Yes, absolutely.
I've had to train myself to see things in different situations. And
Yes,
then once I believe that that's true, I'm much more successful.
yes,
These are
absolutely.
all
And
choices. I feel like our whole
mm,
conversation today has been about choosing
yes,
what we believe, choosing what we think,
absolutely.
choosing what we pursue and how we pursue it, choosing how we're seen, choosing how we show up.
Oh, yeah, and it's just so interesting because, you know, when we did this, what a lot of folks don't know, this is like retake number two. And without going too much into the details, what I find, and again, I've said this before, I don't believe in accidents. And by the time you guys see this episode, it's going to be June. And the reason why I mention that is because my husband and I are on the cusp of doing something that's incredibly ambitious. We're about to launch this massive Indiegogo campaign, which we have never done before, to raise funds for our company. And just having this conversation with you, I'm looking at it and no one knows the number that we're about to put out
Yes,
there.
yes.
But guess what? It is only,
It
and
is
we haven't
only.
raised it yet.
Nope. I love
Okay.
it. Yes.
So I'm telling y'all, this is for such a time as this because the way this climate is right now, none of us are safe. And I have said this before, and I will say it again, especially as Black women. And I'm not gonna get in. I'm not gonna argue with anyone that says, "Well, what about Black men? And what about this?" Y'all see the name of the podcast, okay? Go check it again if you want to. Okay,
Yeah,
just go
yeah.
do that.
We could say
But
we could say as human beings, but that's not what you're focused on. We're not
exactly,
here to talk about everyone. We're talking about the unique experiences and
exactly,
perspectives of a group of people that we're a
yes.
part of. Right.
Exactly. And so what's really important, the reason why it's even more important to harp on it is because look at the data. Right now, the unemployment rate jumped an entire percentage point for who? Black women. We are disproportionately negatively affected by DEI, the fallout of DEI, but it always positively, heavily benefited white women. And you think about that disparity, what's actually playing out right now, and then hopefully you begin to understand why we need to have these conversations and why we keep pushing to center Black women because we are getting lost. We are losing our jobs at an alarming rate. At an alarming rate right now. And I have said this before, and I will say it again, it is by design. There's nothing accidental about this. This is not paranoia speaking. This is not hysteria. I'm looking at the data. The data speaks for itself. There is a reason why we will not reach parity, most of us, in our lifetime, if at all. There's a reason why the wage gap will be what it is for Black women for the foreseeable future.
Unless there's another word,
Okay?
right?
Unless,
Unless we choose to do things differently.
yes.
Like
And that is why
we yes,
this episode is so timely because it is about opportunity.
it is.
This is not the time to despair.
Mm-mm.
This is the time to look for those opportunities. That thing you wanted to start a while back that you were kind of like on the fence about,
Yeah.
that you know you're really good at doing, girl, if you don't go head on.
Yes, and you know what, Nicole, Wendy and I, my business partner, we have, and I think I may have mentioned it to you last time we spoke. We are putting together, we've already designed it. We just have to pick a date, a retreat called
Mm-hmm.
Only One, Only You.
Yes.
And it's for women of color, where we're going to come together and help people figure out what's that one thing they do that
Mm,
nobody else on the planet can do the way they do it. Because
yes.
when you might not be able to find what you need within a corporate structure, you might
Yes.
need to come out and build your own business and service those. That's what we do. We
Mm-hmm.
service corporations. But how do you find out? And what I talk about is a difference between differentiating yourself and distinguishing yourself,
Yes.
right? And how can you figure out what distinguishes you? That's what people struggle with.
Mm,
They're like, I know what I
yes.
know, and I know what I'm smart, and I know how to do what I do, but I don't know how to communicate that in a way that people go, yeah, yeah, yes, 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 I want more of that. And I think that's why our Only One, Only You retreat is going to be so critical. It's
Yes.
to help people who are just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I have something to offer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure exactly what it is or how to package it or how to put
Right.
it together, but I'm feeling like that voice is telling me inside where I am is not where I should be long term.
Mm,
So then you have to figure out what that is. You have to figure out what that is, and you have to figure out how to talk about it in the way that people want to be a part of it. And you have to know the
absolutely.
difference between differentiating and distinguishing. They're not the same thing.
Okay. Break it
And
down for the
people who
folks at home.
differentiate are comparing themselves to someone else.
Mm,
That's very corporate. It's very MBA like, isn't it? We need to differentiate our differentiation by definition means there's a comparator.
mm-hmm.
Distinguishing, there is no comparator. A distinguished professor had no competition for that
Okay.
distinguished professor role, right?
Catch that, y'all.
He or she has done what they did the way they did it, wrote the papers they wrote, they
Hmm.
got published where they were published, and they're the only one who knows what they know. That's
Mm,
distinguished. And I think what we struggle with is how do we, especially as women of color, because this is what
mm-hmm.
we talk with corporations about how they can distinguish themselves.
Yep.
But as women of color, do you know what distinguishes you from in the universe? Because it's not from, it's in the universe. Differentiating is differentiating from as
Mm-hmm.
compared to. What is so unique and wonderful and incomparable about you that you can take to the world and offer it, and people will say, yes, I want some of that.
Okay. No comparison, y'all. Okay.
No
Catch that.
comparison, but we need to learn how to think that way. I'll tell you what,
Yes.
the wealthiest entrepreneurs in the world already think that way. That's why they're the wealthiest entrepreneurs in the world. The wealthiest people in the world are entrepreneurs, not
Mm-hmm.
corporations, right?
Okay.
The wealthiest people in the world
Hmm.
were entrepreneurs because they thought that way. They thought, what do I have that nobody else has? How could I take it to the world? They didn't say, how do I take it to my city? How do I take it to my town? How do I take it to my state? How do I bring it within my country? They said, how do I take this to the world?
Yeah, no playing small.
That's
We're not
right.
playing small up in here. Mm-mm. We're not doing that.
But it changes when the target's way out there, when the target's bigger than we have the ability to imagine,
Yeah.
we are so much more likely to exceed any arbitrary targets that we set for ourselves. Because we're going for that one way out there, that one we can't even envision. If we go for that one, we're going to overshoot anything that we would have ever come up with. Right. And it's because there's only one, there's only you, there's only one like you, Nicole. There's only one like me, Tish. There's only
Yes.
one like Wendy. And we don't bring the exact same things to the world. But the only difference maybe between Tish and Wendy is we've learned how to articulate what we bring
Yes.
so that
And I
people can get it, right?
and I think there's and I think that in itself is a word because there's so and I see this play out on LinkedIn all the time. And I have unfortunately been on the receiving end of this where people are looking to copy what you're
Yeah,
doing because they
yeah.
think that's going to get them the same result.
They can't. They can't.
It won't.
They
It
can't.
really won't, y'all. It really
No.
won't. Like I am this is just this
Yes.
is me.
Yes.
And you have to find yourself. And I've said this before, and I'm a little spicy when it comes to stuff sometimes. But you guys really need to hear this. A lot of y'all are spending time trying to mimic someone else when you should be spending time just being who you are. That is what people are looking for because if you're busy mimicking someone else, by the time you're done running on that hamster wheel and you've got nothing left, the people are going to leave because they're chasing something that was never you. And so that's what, and so your retreat is going to be so powerful because I think there's a lot, and I think it's because we're in this fight or flight state.
Yeah.
And a lot of black people are like, I got to get this done. I got to do it quickly. I got
Yes.
to get out there. I got to get followers. I got to do this. I got to do that. And so you're racing to get somewhere by taking things that you're seeing. Oh, well, that's successful there. So I'm just going to do that and I'm going to do this. Just do you.
Yeah.
Be you. That is so critical because the people who need to find you, who need your message, those are the people that you want because never going to run out of who you are. your substance is boundless. But if you're pulling from other people, that has such a limited shelf life. By the time people figure out that that was never you to begin with, they're going to go away. And then you're going to be left even further back than where you started. And so I think that to me is so powerful. And I really hope more people listen to that, because I think even today is just a day where I'm just like, you know what? I don't have time to think about who is or isn't coming in my timeline to take notes and trying to figure out how they can reverse engineer it. You'll never get the sauce because I am the sauce.
Yeah,
Okay?
and you know what? And it's okay for people to be inspired. I am inspired by people. I find I listen to people who are saying
Yeah.
things I've been saying for 20 years.
Mm,
They just monetized it and made it big and beautiful. And so I connect with them. I get it. I
right.
understand where they're coming. It's okay for us to be moved
Yes.
and by people who are saying things and doing things that really align with who we are.
Yes.
But if it's hard for you to say, if you have to rehearse what you're going to say, if you don't know what you're going to say, it's probably
Okay.
not coming from you. But it's
Mm,
okay to be influenced by
yeah.
greatness. I am the product of all the people that I've ever had any contact with. I've learned from every person the person I passed in the grocery store, right? I may have learned about fashion. Oh, that's a nice outfit. We learn from everyone we have contact with. And so that's okay. That's okay. But it should really, like you're saying, it should come from who you are. It should come from what you care about. And it shouldn't be hard work. It should be work. It should be work. But
Yes.
if you can't quite get it right, it's probably not what's that unique thing about you.
Yeah.
You're probably trying to pull a little bit of Nicole and a little bit of this person, a little bit of that, and try to put something together. And I think that's what you're
Right.
saying. You're saying, go ahead and try to copy it, but it doesn't matter because you are the secret sauce. So I'll go ahead and try to copy it. I don't
Right.
I don't care if people reuse what I say. I'm sure some people look at my things and they think I reuse theirs, but in reality, I got it documented. I've been talking about this for 25
Yeah.
years, right? But that's okay as long as we're doing our thing. And I think that's what
Yeah.
I hear you saying.
Oh, 100%. And I think to your point, and I think it's not that we're saying that only like we're not Columbus when it comes to talking about Black women's issues. Like none of us here. Columbus wasn't Columbus, to be clear, but that's another story for another day. Okay. What we're saying though is that it comes naturally. If it is your essence, it's not going to be work
No.
because it's going to flow out of you,
Yes.
and that's the difference. And you can see that in when a person writes. We all can talk about, if you put us all in a room and took away computers and just gave us a notepad and a pencil and told us, I want all of you to write on this topic, we can all write on the same exact topic and it will look very different.
Yes, that's a great analogy. It will not look the same. It will not look the same,
Right.
even if we're all equally passionate about it.
And that's the key. And that's the
Yes.
key. So you have to, when you spend a lot of time trying to like, oh, well, I'm going to pull from here and pull from here, it takes away who you are, what makes you unique, what you bring to the table and what you present and how you present it. And that's the difference, because people are not looking for the next Viola Davis or the next Whoopi Goldberg. They're looking for you. That's what people, if people want Viola, they go to Viola.
Right. That's right.
And so that's what we have to start understanding is that, and I think that again, back to the mindset, when we recognize and when we believe in
Yeah.
who we are,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
when we recognize that we are like, I am the ish, okay,
Yeah.
I am that girl. When we start believing that, that will start flowing out of us in the right way. But when we don't believe that we have something to bring to the table, then we're looking to pull from other people
Yeah.
because we don't believe what we have to share.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm challenging us, because and again, and I speak about it passionately because it's not only happened to me, but it's happened to others. And it breaks my heart to see that. But I need all of y'all gather up, all of my beautiful Black women, to understand you bring something unique to the table that
Yes.
nobody else can replicate.
Nobody
That
else.
is what we want. We don't
Mm-mm.
want to hear somebody else's
Mm-mm.
echo. We want to see your fingerprint.
That's right. And you know what? And you might not know what that is. You may have
Mm-hmm.
grown up in an environment where you were put down and you
Yeah.
were told that you were less than. You
Yes.
just never saw your greatness. You are. That's why you
Mm-hmm.
need to surround yourselves with the Nicoles and the
Absolutely.
Tishes who are going to tell you
Okay.
how
Yes, we
great
will.
you are. Even the people who, sometimes, somebody I haven't had this happen since I was a child, but somebody stabbed me in my back recently. It just
Oh,
really, yeah, I got like I'm still healing. I'm still healing from the wounds back. It really hurts. I shouldn't even move my shoulders too much. It's healing up. But the one thing I really believe, even the Lord showed me in my heart, still continue to bless her. Don't trust her. Don't trust her, but
catch that, people. Catch
but
that.
continue to bless her.
Okay.
And so that's hard. That's hard
Mm-hmm. Very.
because she is doing her backstabbing behavior, which was not
Mm,
just with me, is coming from a place of insecurity in herself, which is so clear. And she's a perfect example of someone who needs to know you have something special.
yes.
You don't have to tear other women down
Mm,
in order to recognize and realize your greatness. And I know a lot of us have had pains. A lot of Black women, we've had different experiences, different growing up. It doesn't matter whether you grew up with money or no money, a lot of money,
yep.
suburbs or city, the projects in the ghetto or in
Mm-hmm.
rural. We got a lot of stuff that's similar in terms of the way we've been programmed. And I think it's important that all of you really lean in and listen to this. You are great. There is something unique and wonderful about you. And just because you don't know it yet doesn't mean what I'm saying is not true. It just means you haven't discovered it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, keep listening to Nicole so you can discover it. I think we need to discover it. And we don't always know. And we might get frustrated. You know what? Discovering who I am is frustrating sometimes. You know why? Sometimes I don't like who I'm discovering I am, and I have to change her, right? And then other things like, wow, look at that. I didn't even know I knew that, right?
Okay.
I think I just want your audience to know, like, each one of you, there's something amazing. And even if no one ever told you that, Nicole and I are telling you that
Yes.
there is something
100%.
amazing and unique and unlike any incomparable. There's
Yes.
no other human being like you. And it's time for you to start loving yourself, believing in
Mm-hmm.
yourself, no matter what you've heard in the past, no matter what you've been told, no matter how
Yeah.
you've been treated. It's about you and your journey forward. It's not about putting any of the people down who put you down. I'm not talking about
Okay.
it's about you focusing on yourself and taking yourself forward in this journey because it's going to be wonderful when you're focused on success. Who focuses on failure? Nobody does that. Who
No.
does that? Not me.
Mm-mm. No,
You do
not at all.
know when I was depressed, I focused on failure, but I'm not depressed anymore.
Okay. Like, honestly, like, I mean, there are so many good gems in here, and I really hope that everyone really heard what was said here because it wasn't just, it meant, it ministered to me as we were talking because I needed to be reminded of a lot of those things today, especially because, and I've always been transparent about this. Like, I don't have it together, y'all. Like it is a daily practice. There are some days that are better than others. So don't ever look at any of us and put us on a pedestal and say they've arrived. No, we're still figuring it out, very much so, as we
Practice,
go, because
practice, practice.
100%.
Yeah.
And so there are some days that we are on, and there are other days we're like, I'm just going to crawl back under the covers and try again tomorrow. And that is life, and that is the human condition. And so, like, I'm restating it because I think it's so powerful what you said, differentiation versus distinguishing. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Stop saying, "Well, I do this and they do that." No, you find your secret sauce because you got one. You've got one. Like I'm like one part Scotch bonnet, sometimes full part Scotch bonnet, depending on the day, and I'm quirky, I'm cynical. I lean into that, but it took me a long time to own that because I always felt like I didn't belong for a long time. And when you hear that growing up, you start to believe that. And so I'm really encouraging you to understand that that thing that some people look at sideways, that might be your secret sauce.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
And there's a lot of us weirdos out here. And I
Mhm.
subscribe. Hey, look, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd and I'm proud to be a nerd. So there are a lot of us out there that just haven't found our people because we think it's just us, that we are just kind of like, I'm out here doing this thing and people look at me because I'm marching to the beat of my own drum. And sometimes they like, okay, girl, or, okay, guy, whatever the case is. But that you may be holding back because you think that's not what people want to hear. People need to feel seen. That's really, I think, especially in this era, people need to feel seen. They need to see themselves. And that's the thing that I've heard the most from the folks who have read my book. I saw myself. I felt like you were telling my story, and that's why I wrote it. And so I encourage you, there's no time like the present. Have a sit down with yourself and just take inventory and look back over the things that lit you up, that have always been with you since the beginning of time, no matter what, that were just part of your DNA. For me, that has always been writing. And I bet that we all have that. We all have that thing that is just so inextricable, like something that is so much a part of us that we can imagine that not ever being that.
Yes.
And that is your secret sauce. And I mean, I want more of us to recognize that, especially as Black women, because I just don't feel like we hear that enough. We don't hear enough that we are worthy, that we are amazing, that we're not broken, that we can be, beautiful and we can be amazing and all these things, and not always the workhorse or the person who holds everything
Yes.
together
Yes.
or the strong one. There's so many other things we could be, and we need to start listening to what more is possible outside of the stereotypes that society puts on us. That's all I'm gonna say.
I think that's a good period because I think people need to hear that.
Okay.
It's not about society has put a lot of things on us. You know what? And I've had to admit to myself, I put things on myself,
Absolutely.
right? There are things that I came up with, there were
Yeah.
limitations and I had to set myself free from that. And I hope your audience will do that. Say, you know what? There's some limitations you've been placing. There are things you said, I will never do that. I will never do that. I'm not like her. Let it all go. Because you're probably missing walking into that opportunity Nicole was talking about earlier. You're
Okay.
missing it because you set up all these arbitrary reasons why you can't
Hmm.
go in that direction, when maybe that was the direction you were supposed to be going in all along.
Yeah, we gave y'all so much food for thought here. And I could talk to you for another like 3 more
I know,
hours.
I
You know how
know.
we go. But as you have things to do, and I unfortunately have things to do
Yeah.
myself,
Yes.
what I do want to make sure the audience knows is how to get in touch with you. So please let the audience know where they can find you so that they can connect. And of course, we're going to let you guys know as soon as we have the dates for the retreat. We're going to
Yes.
come back and let y'all know about that. But do let the audience know how they can get in touch with you.
Yes, LinkedIn is a great way to do it. So Tish Baldez, I'm the only Tish Baldez on LinkedIn. My
Okay.
last name is spelled with a B like boy, so Baldez, first name Tish. You can also find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube through the Tish and Wendy channel. So
Okay.
Tish and Wendy, Wendy. We have channels on all those places, so you can follow us there and you can see what we got going on. But LinkedIn is probably the best way if somebody wants to reach me.
Awesome.
They have questions. They just want to look at some of the business video. We tend to focus on the corporate side of our business on LinkedIn, and then on the other channels we have a little bit more fun. But it's all about business, but it's not
Hey,
more fun.
I love that. And
Yes.
of course, I'm going to put all the links into the description so you guys have that available to you all. Tish, as always, it has been an absolute blast to have you on.
Yes, it's been
We
great.
will have to have you come back again,
Yes,
of
I will.
course.
Thank you for having me. I'd love to come back. We had so many other things we could have talked about. I
Oh,
would have loved
like
to.
so many, and like I said, I'm telling you guys, like everything, I believe everything happens for a reason. So we let the conversation go where it goes over here. Okay. And I'm quite certain that the words that were shared were needed by many of you. And so I believe that it's going to land and get to the recipients that need to receive this. So thank you so much, you all, for joining us for yet another phenomenal episode of Black Womaning in Corporate America. And of course, as I always say, until next time, take care. Thanks for tuning in to Black Womaning in Corporate America, the podcast. If today's episode spoke to you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, or submit a 5-star rating wherever you're listening. And don't forget to grab your copy of Playing the Game While Black Womaning in Corporate America, available now wherever books are sold. Until next time, take care.